Now, what Republican senators are doing this week might actually help the Democrats because 10 Republican senators, in order to avoid a filibuster, have joined in on new gun control provisions. We have another mass shooting in America, and instead of looking at why the media celebrates these mass shootings, why there's inadequate security repeatedly at these proceedings, why that investigators or government officials end up involved at some level where they knew and didn't warn, or they could have taken action, or in some cases look like they're being instigators at some level, provocateurs at some level. None of that is being investigated. For the same reason they had to demonize Alex Jones over Sandy Hook, they needed the whole focus to be on the gun, and a bunch of wussy Republican senators have taken the bait. And right now, 10 Republican senators have joined in with the 50 Democrats to vote for a bunch of gun control restrictions, the most problematic of which
red flag
is the empowering red flag laws across America.
All right, so if you could, I don't know if we know the details entirely. I just know that the red flag law or the red flag warning system is going to be the biggest, not red flag, but it's going to be the biggest speed bump or the biggest issue for many. Do you know what the terms of this agreement are? 30,000 foot overview.
The good news is it doesn't itself institute red flag laws. There's constitutional doubts whether Congress could do so at a federal level. The bad news is that they are incentivizing through major funding proposals, getting states to do so, and are all excited about it. Just temporarily. I mean, imagine, someone like an Amber Heard could have got all of Johnny Depp's guns taken away from him if he, had any, right? I mean, that it's those kind of. Do we want to empower a bunch of Amber Heards across America to take away people's guns? That's going to be the new. There's no evidence at all, given that the complete lack of security breakdown and safety protocols and response protocols and other aspects, that any red flag law would have stopped any of these mass school shootings. Period. There just isn't. And in fact, the evidence to the contrary. There's plenty of laws on the books, and these people violate them, of course. Right. So the idea that this would work, this is just a pretext. Red flag laws are the greatest threat to the Second Amendment, because under any guise, without a jury trial, a judge can take away your rights. And they're trying to expand again the definition of domestic abuse so that they can take away guns from those people. Based on, in some cases, nothing more than an allegation as well. Changing federal law, creating new federal laws that limit, that regulate the sale, purchase, and trade of guns, which is just an effort for the ATF to have more power over your everyday life in the gun context. They're all bad proposals. There's not a single proposal in there that's worth the paper it's printed on. All of them undermine Second Amendment rights. Some flagrantly violate Second Amendment rights. And the only way you can get Democrats to win is to have a bunch of Republicans stay home, because they realize how useless so many Republicans are. Mitch McConnell is encouraging this, publicly said, came out and encouraging it. This is the weak link. As Huey Long said years ago, he gave a great description about a fellow selling snake oil down in Louisiana. Said he had one product that could cure half of your ills and another product that cured the other half of your ills. And somebody said, well, what's it made of? And he said, well, it's made from bark off the tree. And somebody asked the salesman, well, what's the difference between the two? He said, oh, it's really big. One you get by skinning the bark off the tree from the bottom up, and the other one you get by skinning the bark off the tree from the top down. And Huey Long said, when I got to Washington, the only difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party is one wants to skin you from the ankle up, and the other wants to skin you from the ear down. And some of these Republican senators are proving that this week. So these are bad. These are not as dangerous as some of Biden's proposals, but these are still very dangerous, a perilous path. And now maybe we understand why they needed to falsely blame Alex Jones for the school shooting of Sandy Hook, and why they never did adequately investigate and publicize what really happened at Sandy Hook, why they never investigated fully what's happening in Uvalde. Uvalde in Texas, they're already using pre-lawsuit procedures whereby you can depose somebody before a lawsuit's even filed, to blame the gun manufacturer. Or it's Sandy Hook Part 2. And it's because of all the lies about Sandy Hook in part that we're here, because the gun isn't the reason there's a problem. And lawful gun owners who lawfully own guns protect and keep people safe, like the person who stopped this shooter from shooting more people, like people have stopped shootings all across the country repeatedly, like people have stopped all kinds of crime repeatedly. They make the country safer, not more dangerous. Politicians trying to take away gun rights is what makes the country more dangerous.
Answer me this, because when I think the red flag laws, when I think that the way that gets used is people phone in and then the police arrive on scene, and in a way, it sounds and smells like it's going to be the exact same problem that occurs with effectively swatting. Like if someone calls in and says this person's a risk, show up with your ATF and whomever. Does that not turn into a de facto sort of swatting of people who they know or suspect has as arms, and whether or not that itself is going to lead to serious problems?
I mean, there's if they do it to Tim Pool, they're going to be there for a while because he's got more than a few protective weapons. So they might be there for a week or two. But yes, that's exactly the problem. And there isn't what it does is it gives the state the power to take away your Second Amendment rights in the guise of an emergency, right? Basically, an individual emergency. How has that worked over the last 3 years, giving the government emergency powers? Why in the world would we want to do that in a Second Amendment context? It's inherently and necessarily dangerous. In my view, these red flag laws are patently unconstitutional. And the fact that they're opening the door to them and creating the motivation and incentive monetarily to them shows you who a lot of these people really are. Not a surprise. Tom Tillis from North Carolina is fake. Now, why is he doing it? He's not running for re-election. Now, but Corbin from Texas, Corbin and his staff follows me on social media. They should know better than to be on board with this nonsense.